Hello and welcome. I'm Renuka Maithil, the editor of Forbes Africa. Today, I'm in conversation with the kind of person you'd only read about in books. She's had an extraordinary life of struggle, success, and adventure. Long before she was known as the mother of South African-born billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk, on whom many books have been written, in her own right, she was a star who walked tall down the ramps and rewrote the rules of the fashion industry. I'm talking to Maye Musk, who joins us today from a home in Los Angeles. She's just released her new book titled A Woman Makes a Plan, which is a frank take on family, careers, adventure, and success. So nice to see you, Maye Musk. It's lovely to have this conversation with you. I'm really looking forward to it. But I must ask you, you're 72 years old. You're in great shape. You look absolutely amazing. Can't tell that you're a grandmother to 12 children. How have you been how you still continue to be a role model to young women, and how have you managed to wear all these hats as a model, a dietitian, an entrepreneur, mother to a billionaire?
You know, women can do anything and everything. And we always do anything and everything. So there's good lighting. So, of course, I probably look 25. And then also, I have to eat very well to maintain a healthy weight and to stay in good health and have a lot of energy. And my twin sister always says to me that you have to tell people how hard it is because I have to plan my meals. I have to eat regularly. I have to eat when hungry. And it's always something I have to plan. So for me to stay in good health, that's eating well. I've also never smoked, which is great.
Okay.
And I wear a hat in the sun and sunscreen. So, you need to look after yourself and stay in good health. And then, of course, the world's the limit, and then there's Mars.
Yes, I will talk about Mars. I know you've mentioned that in your book as well. But first, I must start off with South Africa, where you grew up. I mean, you've recounted in your book about taking all those trips with the family as children. You were traveling the Kalahari Desert in winter. And you've had some very memorable adventures in Africa. I mean, have you as a family always been a family of adventurers? I mean, is it always about exploring the unknown and going where no one has gone before?
Well, obviously, with my parents coming from Canada, a small town called Regina, coming to South Africa, and I tell in my story how we got to Pretoria in my book. And then they just wanted to explore Africa and the world in a single engine plane. They did a lot of that. And then they took all 5 children to the Kalahari Desert, but not just to visit. And I know people think, oh, Botswana, it's so glamorous. It wasn't in the 50s. It was a tiny little store. And then we would go from across the Kalahari with a compass, and we'd map it out. We'd map the hills, we'd map the pan. So there's a May hill, there's a May pan. A pan is a dry lake. And that's what my parents did. And all my friends went to the beach. Well, I didn't have that many friends because I was such a science nerd, so then my twin sister was my best friend. But it's so weird that my parents were so adventurous. It was wonderful.
So you mentioned about living dangerously but carefully. Would you care to elaborate on that?
Well, that was my father's saying, because, of course, when you're going to go across the Kalahari Desert with a compass, and then you need to plan. So it's quite dangerous to go across the desert. And I mean, in the camps, there would be hyenas or lions or definitely snakes. And we saw a lot of animals. But so you're kind of living dangerously, but then he was very careful and he protected us. So when a lion or hyenas came into the camp around our campfire, then we would all get into the truck.
So, what were your memories of South Africa at the time when it was going through its own tumultuous journey? What are some of the recollections, some painful recollections as well, that you have of living in the country?
Well, we were kept kind of separate because the news, newspaper and radio was was controlled by the government, so we didn't get bad news. And I know on occasion there'd be in a newspaper that a reporter did report on what's going on, and then it would be that reporter would be have to leave the country or go to jail. So that we knew about, but we didn't really come across any violence or people protesting. Everyone I met of all racial groups were really, polite, kind, hardworking, and lovely people.
You started your modeling career in South Africa, and at the age of 67, that's a time when most women, they say, life is over and I'm retiring and this is it. At the age of 67, you did your first runway show at the New York Fashion Week, and you've seen the tumultuous world of modeling across various continents. How has the modeling world come to accept diversity like this? I mean, people talk about aging. They always have a fear of aging. There's so much obsession with aging. How have you managed to break some of those barriers?
I've never feared aging. I think it's been good to me. Life is easier now. I've been through a lot of problems, as you know, a lot of struggles. And now that I have social media, that's how I get my work. And then if it's modeling, it goes to IMG Models. If it's nutrition related, because I'm a dietitian, or speaking engagements, it goes to my speaking agent. So I have a lot of agents, and then I have my book agent who got Jonathan Ball Publishers, and that's why my book's in Southern Africa. And you have social media, but then of course you get like 100 requests every day. So you do need people a whole team to control that.
Okay, that's great. Can you just tell us?
I mean, first of all, at 72, who knew I would need a team to control my work, because I'm so popular. It's about time I'm popular.
Yes. No, I mean, it's great. I mean, you're certainly a role model for the rest of us. But can you give us any interesting anecdotes about your modeling career when you first started off in South Africa? You were just a teenager, as I understand.
Yes. At 15, my mom's friend had the Cleopatra School of Modeling, and then another friend of hers had the Charmant Modeling School. So we were given free modeling courses. And then afterwards I was told, we'd like you to model on a Saturday morning in a department store. And I thought, okay. So I go there, put on the clothes, walk up and down, and then they pay me. And I'm saying, oh my gosh, they're going to pay me to put on pretty dresses. But I didn't take it seriously because I was 15 and it, my studies were more important. And anyway, you definitely couldn't take off school for modeling. And I knew everybody just said by 18, you're pretty much done. So then I didn't have to pay much attention to it. In the holidays, then I would do print work. And then it just kept on going, and then I had 3 kids, and then it kept on going after that. They needed a model for Mother of the Bride, because you can't have an 18-year-old wear the outfit for Mother of the Bride. And at 28, again, it's young for that situation. But the point is, I was the oldest model, so they had to choose me. And that carried on all through my life. I just continued modeling when they wanted me, but it didn't stop me studying, because I went to Pretoria University and did a Bachelor of Science in Dietetics, and I really struggled with the Afrikaans, because Canadian parents and English school, you do suffer, but I got through. And then when I was at 32, I went to Bloemfontein and did a Master of Science degree, a hospital dietetics diploma and Master of Science degree. And that's when I became bilingual, so I can Afrikaans praat, because I was the only English-speaking person in the whole department. So you have challenges in life, and you just have to work through them.
No, definitely. I'd love to hear your advice on actually overcoming challenges later on. Now, your oldest son, Elon Musk, he is, as a founder of Tesla, he makes electric cars, he launches rockets into space. Your second son, Kimball, he's a food entrepreneur of repute. Your daughter, Tosca, is a filmmaker. You've raised 3 successful children, and all the while you had to counter struggle and strife, and as a single mother. How did you do it?
Well, now, funny enough, when I told my children that my book agent wants me to write about my life and the lessons I've learned, and they said, you've got to bring your struggles into your book. And I said, oh, I never complain. So then they said, no, the people have to know that you're kind of Instagram perfect and they need to know what you've been through. So I put the struggles in. I tell my life story, and then it gets recorded, and then it gets transcribed. And then when I read it with my editor, I said, oh, I want to take some of these chapters out. And she said, no, women will relate to them. So that's why my struggles are in there. And you just have to, if you're in a bad situation, you just have to get out. You have to get out quicker than I did. You have to find a way. You have to share your problems with your family and friends. Now, interestingly, my twin sister and my 2 brothers had no idea what I'd been through. I'd never complained to them. I'd never come across as struggling. I was always happy. But the point is, if you complain all the time, then you're not interesting or fun or beautiful, because you're just miserable. So that's I didn't tell anyone when I was going through my struggles. But nowadays, I think if you need help, you need to tell people.
You need to tell people and seek counseling. I mean, a lot of young women go into depression easily. I mean, how do you think they should come out of that? I mean, what's your advice for mental health and distress at this time?
Yeah, I never went through a depression. A depression just means you can't get up in the morning. I had to get up, get the kids to school, and start working at 7:30 in the morning. So I didn't have a depression. I had a lot of sadness, and rightly so, because I was scared, because I had to feed these kids, And then my ex-husband, after my divorce for 11 years, he had me in lawsuits. So that was exhausting, and you live in constant fear. So when it comes to depression, because I'm a dietitian and I counsel patients from doctors for 45 years, many of my patients were depressed, and some of them had a reason. Sometimes it's because of poor health, and then I could help them to eat better so that they can reduce their risk for diabetes or heart disease, or make them feel better, healthier when they have cancer, or whatever therapeutic clinical condition they had, or else just to lose weight to fit into your clothes, because sometimes you can be depressed because your clothes don't fit. And so if there's a reason for the depression, then they need to talk it out. If it's because of things that have happened in the past, like I've had, then I recommend that they don't talk about, continually complain about their past, because it just makes them less interesting. And when it came to dating, every time I would meet a man, he would tell me about his miserable life. And I said, I feel like I'm counseling. I'm getting out of here. Men also, when they want to date someone, they need to be fun and just have some kind of interest other than their miserable lives.
Now, in your book, you've called Elon Musk a genius boy. He wrote his first computer program at the age of 13, and it got published. I mean, did you always see that technology in him, the interest in technology, and how did he actually bring that to fruition? How did it take shape? How did you see that happen?
Well, I told people when he was 3 that he's a genius, and they'd say, "Oh, you're such a mother," because all mothers think that. And I said, "No, really." Sorry. So, I just, he would read the encyclopedia, and he remembered everything in there. So he was our encyclopedia. So that's unusual. I mean, I can read a book and I forget it soon afterwards. And when I studied for my exams, I would study really hard, but I've already forgotten Well, I pretty much remember the periodic tables, but Krebs cycle, I'm not so good at that, the biochemistry. He doesn't forget those things. And I said, well, that sounds good. And it was when he was 12 and he showed me his computer program. I was teaching modeling to university students, and I showed it to some of the computer students, and they said, oh, he knows all the shortcuts and looks great, the program. So I said to him, you've got to submit it to a magazine, a PC, I think it was called PC magazine. And he did, and I don't think they knew. He was 12 at the time. It was published when he was 13. I don't think they knew that he was 12. But they published it, and he got 500 Rand. How cool is that?
Well, maybe you should tell our audience, what does it take to raise a billionaire? A son is successful. I mean, all your children are successful. But what does it particularly take to raise a billionaire?
I didn't raise a billionaire. He was sleeping on the floor on a bed. I mean, on a mattress. I didn't raise one. And that wasn't his aim. His aim is to save the planet, and then to also, he loves the thoughts of going to Mars. So that's, I raised them all three the same way as my parents raised me and my brothers and sisters, to be independent, to make your own choices and be responsible for them, and then to take on a work that will be better for other people. Because, for example, Tosca has her own platform called Passionflix. And for this platform, she takes best-selling romance novels and makes them into movies. And in these movies, the women are paid as much as the men, and they are strong and confident and successful. They aren't beaten up and violated and abused. And then there's always happy endings. So that makes me feel good that she's doing movies that will make people happy. And then Kimball, besides his farm-to-table restaurants, which helps the farmers, he does vegetable gardens in underserved schools. So he has built vegetable gardens in 650 schools already. He wanted to do 1,000 by the end of this year, but of course everything's been delayed with the lockdown. And these children get so excited to plant their seeds and water them and pick them out of the ground and prepare them and eat them. I mean, to get kids excited about vegetables, well, it makes a dietitian very happy.
No, that's excellent. So you've said in your book that if you have a good attitude and you make a plan and take a chance, even Mars is possible. I've seen in this interview as well, you've mentioned Mars so many times. And it's also your son's pioneering work to one day inhabit Mars. I mean, this kind of interest in space, do you also share it with him?
Well, I get very excited with every step along the way. Yes, we all do. Kimball and Tosca and I go to the main launches. We can't go to all the launches. As you know, he's launched, I don't know, 50 rockets. I'm not sure. I lose track. But we go to the main ones, and we get it's anxious beforehand and excited afterwards. And we are very proud of him and support him with all this. And he just feels that we should be interplanetary, starting with Mars. Mars seems to be the most friendly, although it doesn't look that friendly, but the most friendly. And that's what he would like to explore.
So you've always had a positive attitude to life, and that is what has seen you overcome many of the crises that you've faced. Now, especially now in the COVID-19 context, I mean, how do you think people need to use positivity to actually become better agents of change? Or, even when we talk about women, I believe this crisis is also exacerbating inequalities. So what is your advice for women and young people who need to look beyond this and even tackle the financial loss, the economic loss that they're facing?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of poverty, a lot more poverty. And now many people say, I see in the news that because of this lockdown, that the men are becoming more abusive in the household. Well, that's got to stop. What about the poor women and the children? They don't have a right to now beat their wives. And I was very upset about that. because instead the men should be able to help the wife with the food, with the laundry, with the children, and not just be selfish about themselves because they are now out of work. They need to find ways to survive. I know when my parents went through the Canadian Depression, my dad was a chiropractor and he would give free chiropractic treatments, and people would bring food for him and his family because he had to support the family. And then he broke in horses to be able to survive. And so he did lose his teeth because those horses were throwing him off. And but he had to do whatever he could. And then my mother, she was the lowest paid staff member of a newspaper. And so the editor, there was only the editor and her left. And then she would be, her income would cover the expenses of the family. I mean, they lost their homes, they lost everything. But the thing is, and then she also taught ballroom dancing and ballet lessons. And then again, people would bring whatever food they had or they were growing. And so she would get food that way. So you have to be creative. Unfortunately, we can't really mix with each other, which makes it more difficult for us. But what I found I'm doing is that I'm spending time working on my Dutch, German, and French languages, which I speak, because I don't have much chance to practice them. So I'm keeping my languages going. And then at the same time as the lockdown, I'm suddenly have my book in 20 countries and doing a lot of these virtual interviews. So I'm in a good position. I mean, I would like to go out, but I can't. But for other people, they just need to keep on exploring what they want to do in their lives, because when lockdown ends, they need to know they need to find happiness somewhere.
How do you personally use social media as a catalyst for change? I mean, how have you realized the power of Facebook and Twitter?
Yeah, I use it a lot. First of all, for Twitter, I do a lot of nutrition advice. I give a lot of nutrition advice. There's a lot of craziness out there. And of course, I get the replies about the weirdest diets that they say works for them. And I'm just saying, I've just told you what the best diet is or what's happening with, yesterday it was a tweet about supplements and now you come out with garbage. But I don't say that to them because I'm not, I don't want to have to be impolite on Twitter because they have their belief systems or else they're selling a product. So, I do a lot of education. I try to be uplifting in my social media. And I've done some virtual jobs and hopefully, but all my speaking engagements were cancelled. I was meant to be on a plane every week. All my speaking engagements were cancelled and my modeling jobs. But now it looks like it could start opening up a bit. It's a day-by-day thing. So we need to stay positive.
And you also enjoy being a grandmother. You've got 12 grandchildren. And Elon Musk's son is X, Ash, H12. What do you call him?
I call him X.
Okay, that's great. Do you spend enough time with him? Are you getting time with the children? Do you get enough time
yes,
with them
I get to see the children. We've all been in quarantine, so we're COVID free. Okay. And we've also been tested. We see each other when we can. And that's good. But not as often as I used to, Sure.
So you've achieved so much. You also mentioned that you've got some modeling assignments that you were supposed to be on this year. What next for Maye Musk? I mean, after all of this, what next for you?
Well, when the first of all, I'm just getting started, and once the airports open up and will accept Americans to go into any other country, my book launch will go into all the major countries and hopefully South Africa, and then I can give talks in the different countries. And it's really, it seems like the goal of my book is to inspire people just to have happier lives.
Happier lives. And are you planning any trips to Pretoria, where you grew up in South Africa?
I would love to do that. I would love to see, show people where I went to school and where I lived. Yeah, but again, we're pretty much grounded.
Just one last question before I sign off. You've managed to rewrite the narrative of the fashion industry by, doing what nobody has done before. As a 72-year-old, you're still modeling. I mean, what do you think of African fashion at this time?
Well, African fashion is developing like crazy. That's why if I come to South Africa or in Africa, I like to wear the local designers so that they get some publicity. But I think in Africa, some of the designers are just, I see it on the internet. Fabulous, they're creative, interesting, colorful. Um, Keep going. The designers should be working at home as much as they can so that they can create the clothes they want for any age, not only for a 72-year-old, but any age. As you notice, I wear clothes from that even 18-year-olds wear.
And what do you think of the strength of the South African women? What is their USP according to you?
Well, I've always found South African women to be strong, confident, fun. I mean, the sense of humor in South Africa, I miss it so much. And they just need to support each other, and men need to support women so that women can advance. Because, of course, when women advance, the country does better.
Thank you so much, Maye Musk. I'm afraid that's all we have time for now. Thank you for being a part of the CNBC Africa special. It's goodbye from us.